There is a kind of breathing that only happens behind a closed door, a softer exhale, a slowing down of something that had been running too fast. You turn the key, step inside, and the world outside becomes a distant hum, muffled, optional, no longer pressing against your skin. This is not about hiding, it is about returning. The walls around you are not barriers, they are permission. Permission to soften, to take off the face you wear in public, to exist without being watched, without being needed, without being anything other than quietly yourself. Some people call this loneliness, others call it peace. But for those who love staying home, it is something else entirely. It is the feeling of being held by stillness, of being safe inside. The first thing that changes when you come home is the sound of your own heartbeat. Outside it had been louder, faster. The world had been asking too much of it, but here in the familiar silence of your own space, it begins to slow. The air itself feels different, not thicker, but softer, less demanding. The light through the window falls without judgment. The objects around you, your chair, your blanket, the mug you always use, do not need anything from you. They simply exist beside you. And this, for some people, is the rarest gift the world can offer, the gift of not being required. There is a psychology to this feeling. It lives in the part of the brain that is always scanning for threat, always measuring distance between the self and danger. The amygdala, small and ancient, does not understand the difference between a crowded subway and a predator in tall grass. It only knows intensity, unpredictability. The body reads the outside world as a place where anything could happen. And for some nervous systems, anything feels like too much. So when the door closes, when the lock turns, the brain receives a signal it has been waiting for. The signal that says, you are no longer being observed. You are no longer at risk. You can rest now. This is not imagination. This is biology. The parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest and restoration, can only fully activate when the body feels safe. Outside, the sympathetic system stays partially engaged, ready to respond, ready to react, ready to be whatever the situation demands. But home offers something the outside world cannot. It offers the possibility of complete relaxation, of letting the guard down entirely. The muscles you did not know you were holding begin to release. The jaw unclenches, the shoulders drop, even your vision softens, no longer scanning every corner for what might go wrong. This is the body's way of saying, here, you are allowed to stop performing survival. Home becomes the place where the nervous system remembers it is allowed to be calm, where the body can stop bracing, where the mind no longer has to rehearse conversations or scan faces for disapproval. The predictability of home is not boring, it is soothing. The same walls, the same corners, the same small rituals, making tea the way you like it, sitting in the spot that feels like yours. These repetitions are not monotony, they are anchors. And for a mind that has learned to fear the unexpected, anchors are everything. There's a reason routine feels sacred to certain people. Why the same evening ritual, lighting a candle, putting on soft clothes, sitting in the same chair, can feel more restorative than a vacation. The brain thrives on pattern when the world outside feels patternless. When every day brings new demands, new faces, new decisions, the constancy of home becomes a kind of medicine. It whispers, not everything has to change. Not everything has to be figured out. You can come back to this. You can return to what you know. And in that return, there is a softening, a remembering of who you are beneath all the noise. But this need for home as sanctuary does not appear from nowhere. It is shaped quietly across a lifetime. Some people grew up in homes where the outside world felt dangerous and the inside felt stable. Others grew up in homes where even the inside was not safe. And so they learned later to build their own, to craft a space where finally, at last, they could control the temperature of their environment, the softness of the light, the volume of sound, the presence or absence of other people. For these individuals, home is not a place they retreat to. It is a place they have spent years learning how to create, a place they have earned. There is also the simple truth of the body. Some people are born with nervous systems that feel everything more intensely. The fluorescent lights in grocery stores are not just bright, they hum with a frequency that grates. The voices in a cafe do not blend into background noise. They separate into sharp, individual threads that tangle inside the mind. Social situations are not energizing, they are depleting. Not because people are unkind, but because the act of being perceived, of responding, of holding the shape of a self that others can understand, requires a constant expenditure of energy. And when that energy runs out, the only place to restore it is alone, at home, in silence. This is what psychologists call sensory processing sensitivity. It is not a disorder, it is a trait, a way of being wired that allows the brain to notice subtleties others might miss. The shift in someone's tone, the flicker of a light, the texture of fabric against skin. This depth of processing is a gift in many ways. It allows for empathy, for creativity, for an attunement to beauty that others might pass by. But it also means the world is louder, brighter, more. And when everything is more, home becomes the place where you can finally experience less, where the volume of existence can be turned down to something bearable, where you do not have to filter out 1,000 inputs just to think a single thought. This is not introversion, though it is often mistaken for it. Introversion is about where energy comes from, but this is about where safety lives. A person can love people and still need distance from them. They can enjoy connection and still find relief in its absence. The nervous system does not care about personality types. It cares about regulation. And for some, regulation only happens in stillness, in solitude, in the carefully constructed quiet of a space that belongs entirely to them. And yet, there is a guilt that comes with this, a quiet voice that whispers you should want more, you should go out more, you should say yes to invitations, should push yourself, should be less sensitive, should need less alone time. The world outside celebrates busyness. It rewards those who can move through crowds without flinching, who thrive in noise, who seem to need nothing but the company of others to feel whole. So the person who loves staying home begins to wonder if there is something wrong with them, if their need for quiet is a failure, if their love of solitude is a sign they are broken. This guilt is not random, it is cultural. From childhood, many are taught that connection means being with others, that happiness looks like a full calendar, that a good life is a visible life. The person who stays home on a Saturday night is pitied. The one who declines invitations is worried about. There is an assumption baked into the world's language that to choose solitude is to be left behind. But what if it is not being left behind? What if it is choosing differently? What if some people have simply learned that their peace does not look like everyone else's, and they have decided that their peace matters more than everyone else's approval. But broken things do not create sanctuaries. They do not carefully arrange their space for maximum calm. They do not notice the way afternoon light falls differently than morning light, or the way a certain blanket has the exact weight that makes breathing easier. These are not the actions of someone who is damaged. These are the actions of someone who knows themselves, who has learned what their body needs and has chosen to honor it, even when the world suggests otherwise. Home is not an escape. An escape implies you are running from something real, but home is a return to a version of yourself that does not have to perform, that does not have to translate its inner world into something digestible for others. Inside these walls, you do not have to be articulate. You do not have to be pleasant. You do not have to explain why you need the lights dim or the room quiet or the afternoon unscheduled. You are simply allowed to be without the exhausting labor of making that being understandable. There's a poet named Rilke who once wrote about the need for a room of one's own, not as luxury, but as necessity. A place where the inner life could unfold without interruption, where thoughts could form slowly without the pressure to immediately articulate them, where feelings could surface without needing to be justified. This is what home offers to those who love staying in. It is not a rejection of the world. It is a claiming of the self. A quiet insistence that before you can meet the world, you must first be allowed to meet yourself. And that meeting requires space, stillness, time that belongs to no one but you. There is a kind of love in this, a self-love that is not loud or celebratory, but steady, devoted. The love that says, I will protect you from the things that drain you. I will give you space to recover. I will not force you into shapes that do not fit. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship, the careful tending of a self that has learned, perhaps through pain, perhaps through time, that not all environments are safe for it to exist in fully. And so the home becomes more than walls and furniture. It becomes a landscape of the inner life made visible. The books on the shelf are not decoration. They are reminders of worlds you can enter when this one feels too harsh. The soft lighting is not aesthetic, it is nervous system care. The absence of clutter is not minimalism. It is the clearing of space for a mind that already holds too much. Every choice, every object, every small ritual is a form of self-knowledge made tangible. Outside, the world continues. People gather, cities hum, life unfolds in restaurants and offices and crowded streets. And there is beauty in that. There is connection and energy in the spark of being among others. But there is also beauty here, in the stillness, in the permission to be quiet, in the radical act of choosing your own nervous system over the demands of a world that will always want more from you than you can give. Some people will never understand this. They will call it isolation. They will suggest you are missing out. But what they do not see is that for you, being home is not about missing anything. It is about meeting yourself, about finally, after hours or days of being who the world needs you to be, getting to be who you actually are, unobserved, unedited, safe. And perhaps that is the deepest truth, that home is not where you hide from life. It is where life finally feels possible, where the noise fades and you can hear your own thoughts, where the pace slows and you can feel your own heartbeat, where the world shrinks to a manageable size And you can remember that you are not required to hold it all, that you are allowed to hold only what you can carry, that you are allowed to close the door, to turn the lock, to breathe the way you were always meant to, softly, slowly, safely, inside.